the message is Perpetually Ready. Pastor Raymond Petzold tells this following story about his childhood. He said, when I and my sister were young children, we used to regularly have babysitters when our parents went out in the evening. Some of the babysitters were fun. Some weren't. The fun ones were the ones that let us play wild games that normally our parents would never let us do in the house if they were home. I remember one of those fun babysitters in particular. Now, you moms are probably already going, uh-oh. We came up with an incredibly fun game that we played with Silly Putty in the upstairs hall. Now, my parents' bedroom was at the end of the hall, and the bathroom was at the other end. One of us would be in the middle of the hall, and one at each end of the hall. We would throw this Silly Putty from one end of the hall to the other, trying to keep the person in the middle from intercepting it. If they did, the person who threw it had to go in the middle. It was wild because Silly Putty bounces wildly, and we would normally never be allowed to throw things like that in the house. We had a great time. Because we were doing something in the house we knew we shouldn't be doing, but we weren't worried because we knew what time our parents were coming home. We would stop and clean up long before they returned. No harm done, and a great time had by all. Until one Saturday morning, I will never forget. I was awakened by the loud, angry sound of our name. When my eyes caught the sight of my father's face, it was frightfully full of wrath, and I knew it spelled my doom. It turns out that, unaware to us, the Silly Putty had hit and broken a precious clock in my father's dresser. Our gig was over. The deception was found out, and it was painfully unpleasant experience. I don't need to go into the details. I'll let you draw your own conclusions. The moral of the story is that as long as we thought we knew what time my parents would return, we thought we could get away with things that we probably shouldn't do. We thought they would never find out. And we were wrong. There were reasons for them not allowing us to do certain things in the house. And after we learned that lesson, we never tried to do that again. We played games that were just as fun, but we did it outside. God, in His eternal wisdom, has helped prevent us from falling into many hurtful sins by not telling us what time He's coming back. If we thought that we knew the time, we would start playing sinful games we shouldn't, thinking it would be all right because we'll stop before Christ returns to judge the world. But also we know our sin will find us out. We can hide nothing from God, so we should never think that we can do anything that would displease Him. I want you to look at the two verses that we read, and I want you to notice something interesting. But that day and that hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. Take ye heed, watch, and pray, for you know not when the time is. Now, whenever a lot of folks start thinking about prophecy, that Jesus is coming back, there's a lot of emphasis on trying to look at the newspaper and, or I suppose we would say, look at the internet and look at the Bible and try to decipher some secret to find out closer how we can predict when Jesus is coming back. Do you know that that was never, ever the intention? Jesus wants us to know that he's coming back. But never did he want us to fixate on the day or the hour or even the year. It was always in Scripture, it was always set up to be, when could he come back? Yes. When could he come back? Today. But he didn't come back yesterday. That's right. But he may not come back today. That's right. He may not come back for 1,000 years. That's right. But he could come back in the next minute. Now, looking at this, I saw something that caused me, because looking at it in a little more detail, it caused me, I had to do a little studying and resolve something. When you look at those two verses, is there something that puzzles you when you look at those two verses? How is it that Jesus didn't know when he's coming back? Now, I started doing some digging and thinking. You remember, because I think we talked about this recently, do you remember how we saw that Jesus grew in wisdom and stature before men? And we learned that he had to learn things. He started out as a baby that had to be potty trained. He had to learn to speak. He had to learn to read. He had to learn everything, right? Because he was perfect humanity and perfect deity, there were things he still had to discover. And you know what? As he was learning, and as he was, he would have supernatural ability to learn things, and he was perfectly God, yes. But because of his incarnation, this side of Calvary, or that side of Calvary, and on planet Earth, he was limited. He couldn't tell his disciples, look at, mark the calendar. Because that hadn't been yet revealed to him as he was growing and learning. Now, if in the process of the perfect Son of God learning and growing,